Hey Kameisha, this is a quick demo video for you for your SaberForge Adept. I got it all done this morning. Actually was going to get it done this weekend, but you and I talked about Friday would be the day that you got ready, or you'd be ready to receive it. So I was going to wait, but then I'm sitting around, had a few minutes in between projects. So I just went ahead and finished this guy up. A little bit of history about this guy. As you know, we've kind of talked, over Messenger. But this is a used hilt. It came from a guy that I know pretty well. Was very rough on sabers. I did work for him a few times. I don't think that this is the one, but he had a SaberForge Adept just like this, where he fried the board. I fixed it for free. A few other things, I fixed it for free a few other times. But anyways, I don't want to get too far into that. My point is, this thing has been through the ringer. I brought it back to life the best that I could. So we'll go over the outside first. The blade, actually, the blade tip. So you've got Neopixel pins in there now for your Neopixel blade. This was made by SaberForge for an in-hilt LED system. So your LEDs would actually be sitting down here. They'd shine through the neck, and then you had an inner tube right here that was just big enough to go on the inside of a hollow blade tube that you'd put in here, and then it would lock in place, and then the LEDs from down here would just light up the blade tube. So I had to go somehow get this guy off. I was able to get it off with 2 strap wrenches. They had a lot of thread lock on there and some glue and stuff, but I broke through that, cleaned all that up, got this emitter off, and I had to Dremel off that piece that's for the in-hilt LED system. So I Dremeled it off, smoothed it out, filed it down nice and smooth so that I could actually put those pins in here. Now another thing with this guy is, because it was for an in-hilt LED system, it had a set screw down here to hold that blade in. So when you have pixels in here, even though my pixel holder is it's only about that thick, right? I mean, it sits about there. It's about that thick. It holds your pins in place. But even that much sits right above where that set screw's at. So that was not a good place anymore for blade retention. So I had to come up here and drill and tap you a new blade retention screw right here, as far up to the lip as I possibly could. So that's what you got right there. Okay. Got all that straightened out. Another thing that when it came to me is it was missing a button, or it was missing the switch. I went to go mess with this a little bit. This red thing just fell right off. So I cleaned all the glue off that, cleaned all of the inside cavity around there, adhesed it back on. I got you a brand new switch. This is a 12mm tactile switch I bought from Custom Saber Shop. And then the actual holder for this guy, the switch is from a guy I bought separately who machines these aluminum pieces. So that entire setup fit inside your red anodized piece very nicely. So that red anodized piece is a little beat up, came to me that way, but I got it back in there, got your switch in there, everything is good to go there. Now you had a set screw, you've got 2 now. You had one right here. This was to hold your in-hilt LED system in place, but because you don't have one of those anymore, I didn't use that guy. But I did need to have one on the opposite side to hold my chassis in place. So you're not going to see the front of this chassis when I take this pommel off, but the front of this chassis, it's only a half circle, and then it's a shelf where I sit the board on top of. So the board sitting on that shelf goes in straight this way. So if I were to use this set screw, there's nothing for it to catch onto. So I had to put a set screw on the opposite side. And the reason I had to orientate it that way is because the wires for your switch, I actually wire the board out here. Then I leave enough slack where you can loosen that set screw if you needed to, pull out your chassis and get to your board, your SD card and your USB port. But the switch wires need to be on top of the board when everything slides in. So that thing had to go in a certain way. So that's why we did this additional hole back here. Moving down, this guy was completely ate up. So it, I straightened it out as much as I could. There's nothing that I could do to get those chips out of the chrome there, and in the switch box right here. One thing about this though, when this came to me, the switch box was pressed all the way down inside this guy. These corners were bent in, and it was just a mess. So I was able, it took me about 3 hours to get that guy out, straighten all of the walling, you know, all along this right here, straighten that out. And then it was a very tight press fit to get this box to go in. So now it's flush with the top. Instead of being, you know, shot all the way down there, it's flush with the top. It's not going anywhere. Saber Forge, when they originally put out this hilt, this just had a magnet on it. So there's 2 holes underneath this switch. One hole would be just a bolt holding the shroud on, and then the other one was actually a recharge port. So this was on a magnet. You could pull it right off and get your recharge port. But because we're not using this in any way, I just went ahead and did a nice tight press fit, nice and even, right along the top. So it looks really good, not going anywhere on you. Okay. So now when I open it up, here's your chassis. So these are, you have 2 clocking washers on here, so you're going to want to be careful. The clocking washers, I'll show you what they do in a second, but you just want to leave those on the threads. But here's your chassis. You have a removable battery system. So the spring is going to be your negative, and then your positive always goes towards your speaker, which is a 28mm bass speaker back here. Battery orientation is very important, especially on this guy because it's caught on fire before from the previous owner, but battery orientation is very important. So remember, spring is your negative. So we're going to throw a battery in real quick.
I've got a feeling that things are about to get pretty nasty around here.
And then let me get an Allen key. So battery slides in just like that, nice and even with the chassis diameter. I'm going to throw in that, screw that pommel right on, and then the clocking washers help you clock your switch or your switch box to your button. So you can just keep on tightening it right there until it's tight and everything is aligned. That's what those are for. So we just press on the button. It's going to wake up.
Things are about to get pretty nasty around here.
Smooth swing. Tap for blaster deflect. And then hold it to turn it off. So we're going to throw a blade in here real quick for you. It takes a 1-inch diameter blade. I just have a test blade right here, but this is more than enough to show you that everything works. So this is actually, sits in here nice and firm. Give it a little tug on that set screw.
I'm no Jedi. I'm just a guy with a lightsaber and a few questions.
There we go. Flash on flash. Tap for blaster deflect. Now when you have a full length blade and you tap it, you'll see randomized blaster deflects along the entire blade. But because this guy is only about 14 inches long, you're not really going to see that too much. Now because it's a 1-button setup, if you want blade lockup, you want to hold down this button and hit the blade at the same time. It's kind of tricky. There we go. When the blade is on and you want to change color, hold down the button and twist your wrist like this. Hang on.
Spectrum.
Just like that. Now you can twist the hilt, and every time you hear it click, it's a different color. Hopefully you can see that color change pretty good in the daytime. So we're going to stop on red. Oh.
Spectrum.
Let me find it again. When you find a color that you like, just hit the button. And then when you turn it off and back on, it will remember that color. There you go, like that. I gave you about 21 different blade effects on this guy. So to get to your blade effects, when the blade is on, hold down the button and twist your wrist, but keep the button held down until you hear this.
Spectrum.
Keep holding it.
Blade profile.
Now let go. Now every click that you do is going to be a different blade profile or a different blade effect. There's kind of a rainbow blade, unstable. This is kind of more of like a fire blade. That's a little bit of an unstable blade. There's a bunch in here to choose from. So when you find one that you like, we'll just go back to a solid color. If I can find it. When you find one you like, just tap the button. Just like that. So this one has a cool scroll on and scroll off effect, if you can see that. Pretty cool. So that is your hilt. Oh, actually, I forgot to tell you one last thing. So to get to your sound fonts, when the blade is off, what you want to do is just hold down the button until you hear this.
Sound bank selection.
Now we go. Now you just cycle through with this button.
The force is with you, young star.
And you can keep going.
You're not a Jedi yet.
When you find one that you like, just hold the button down.
A young Jedi named Darth Vader, who was a pupil of mine until he turned to evil, helped the Empire hunt down and destroy the Jedi Knights.
Now, a lot of these will have soundtracks on them. What you want to do to get that soundtrack is you can just hold down the button until you hear that beep, and it will play. And then to get it to turn off, just do the exact same thing. Hold down the button until you hear the beep, the second beep, and then it will turn off. You can have that soundtrack playing when the blade is on or off. It doesn't matter. And then, simply to get your battery out, we just reverse it. Take your pommel off. Chassis in there very tight. It's not going anywhere on you. And then your finger, you can just pop it right out. And there you go. That is your saber. Hope it turned out the way that you like. I know that we had a lot of challenges on this guy. I wasn't sure that we would even be able to get it at first, but because the fact that I've got a lot of history with this saber, first of all, and you chose to go with me, despite this guy who previously owned this, I wanted to do as much as I could to bring this back to life for you. And I still have your blade plug I'll send with it as well. So thank you for your business, and I will get this out to you on Friday. Thanks.